What is up? What is up? This is DJ Bob Jones, ready to repair the roof. DJ BJ.
What?
We're gonna go down on this hard.
Hey, man.
Real deep. These beats are bulging. You're gonna choke on them, so open wide. Here we go.
Hello friends, it's Soul and welcome back to Warcraft Weekly, the show that definitely does not have a Bob Jones. What?
Well, I'm tired of the same music.
And we're slightly lighter on the news this week, but we still have some PTR highlights and some classic WoW news. First though, let's give a shout out to our beloved patrons, including the return of the notorious DBT and the newest member of the family, Baby Yoda. Oh, how about that for some filler? You too, friend, can be a supporter of a channel that does its best to cover the world of Warcraft without the frothing rage or the fear-mongering. So, let's get to the news, starting with the thumbnail. Blizzard, what the heck are you doing, you idiots? You're ruining flying for everyone. See, that was one of those self-aware jokes disguised as a transition.
No refunds, by the way, guys.
The other day, I was just hanging out on the Peter, minding my own business when... Nah, I just want them to, give a really clear reason why. Okay, here's why we're not gonna let you fly around here. We don't like you very much. We're not very fond of you. Wow, 6 stacks! 7 stacks! Oh, he's, after me. Shit. Bubble, Divine Shield. Ah! He's coming! Oh god! Help! Ah! What the Hashtag Sky. Oh man. No big deal, just another day on the PTR, at least until that clip was out on MMO Champion, and then it became a flashpoint for the dead horse that is the flying debate. So, let me explain exactly what's going on, based on my testing of this week's build, which went out on Thursday. In patch 8.3, over the skies of Old Doom and the Veil of Eternal Blossoms are these super duper flying mobs called the Great Worm from Beyond. As shown on the clip, they have an ability designed to specifically screw with your flying experience. So here's what's going on. If you're within 100 or so yards of these mobs, every 3 or so seconds, they're going to hit you with a dot that deals, it's more like a debuff, that deals minor physical damage, and it applies this debuff that stacks up to 11 times. Now, each stack of the debuff will reduce your flight speed by 30%, so 11 stacks basically means you're RP walking in the air. This worm will also more than likely kill you in one hit if you get in its aggro range, but it's pretty difficult to get into said aggro range once you're aware of the danger. Oh shit. Fly lower. Oh god, he's after me again. No! Please don't hurt me. God damn it. Oh. You're just done. You get aggro, you're done. Doesn't matter how fast you're going. Yeah, I got sky again. God damn it.
Yeah, you'd have to be Soul to get killed by these guys.
Gee, thanks. As for the debuff, it's a physical debuff, meaning, at least at the moment, you can use full immunities to cleanse this debuff, or you can use a physical immunity like Blessing of Protection, that cleanses it too. You could also pop your Goblin Glider, because technically you're falling, not flying, and you'll be able to fall safely while going at a decent speed. Or you can just die, because that's probably faster than waiting out that debuff. When word of this got out, it sparked a bit of debate over what Blizzard is trying to accomplish here.
Oh well, Blizzard is just trying to increase our playtime by putting death traps in the air.
Fun detected, lol.
And then somehow the thread descended even further into some debate over whether people actually AFK while traveling on their flying mounts. It got sort of ridiculous. I mean, come on folks, I wasn't AFK, I was just tabbed over looking at dog videos and porn and... well, it was one or the other, not but oh man. So let's clear the air, especially out of that stuff I just previously said. So I'm going to talk about what I think is going on here, and I'll leave it to you, the listener, the viewer, to tell me how wrong I am.
Oh, I'm way ahead of you.
You remember Argus? Kind of a challenging zone at first. There was rough terrain, lots of mobs, you couldn't fly at all. Remember that? There was a good bit of complaining over that, especially because in the previous patch, we unlocked Pathfinder, and we could zip around the Broken Isles freely. So that taketh and giveth away thing, it felt very jarring. But cut to now, or at least like a month from now. We're going to previously visited zones that went through a full zone revamp. So spoiler alert, these zones are really hostile. There's plenty of elites, there's rare mobs with upwards of 12 million health, and a reward loop that may not force it, but it'll compel you to dive into this mob-filled hellscape. So it's a good thing you can just take to the skies and touch down to the spots that you want to be at, right? Good thing we got flight licenses for Kalimdor and Pandaria, right? With the exception of scenarios, Blizzard hasn't outright taken flight away from an area, but I think they wanted to bring that kind of Argus feel, a sense of danger, of urgency. If you fly really close to these guys and they kill you, well, you deserved it. You weren't watching where you were going. You were looking at the other screen or your phone. It's not like you're being punished for flying. No. You're being reminded that you're in the danger zone, and for all the flight hopping that you are going to be doing, you just ought to be careful of who or what is above you. And this could be just the beginning. Is Blizzard testing something for the upcoming Shadowlands expansion where, I don't know, maybe flying isn't restricted by Pathfinder, but assholes like these are up in the air that can sky f you if you dare encroach upon their territory? And you know what? Maybe they could do both. Like, imagine this. Imagine you're starting the new Shadowlands expansion, Graz. You land in Bastion, you see the sights and the sounds, and then you're told to meet somebody a good distance away. You're told to hop onto your flying mount, so you do so, you take off, and then boom! You're just knocked out of the sky within seconds, and you're dead. Thankfully, you're in the Shadowlands, so they revive your butt, and the locals remind you that you are an outsider, obviously because you're alive, and they are not. And the Guardians in the sky, they just don't trust outsiders. You're reminded of those sky fucking worms that you dealt with about a year ago, and the pain is still fresh in your mind. So begrudgingly, you agreed to this farce of an attempt by Blizz to take away your flight, but at least you get it. But we'll just have to see. Let me know your thoughts in a comment below. Over on the classic side of WoW, the long-awaited brand new / old Battlegrounds feature opened up. Alterac Valley and Warsong Gulch launched this week, and in a way, it provided a lot of context as to what population balance is in Classic. Correct me if I'm wrong, please, but I don't believe WoW Classic uses the battle group technology. It just taps into the entire region's worth of people for battleground queues. And if it did, well, I guess if it did, there'd be what, like 2 battle groups per region? It's not really a big deal anyway. So just this past Thursday in the afternoon, a competition was held over on Twitch to see what 5-man pre-made group would perform the best in Warsong Gulch. It was like, there was like a $10,000 prize pool, whoop-de-doo, but also not that important. And by the way, before you comment, the scores that you see on screen are how many flag caps the teams got. The Alliance teams are clearly ahead, but it's not because they were winning, it was because they were more able to complete more matches at a faster pace. Horde side players waited for 10 or so minutes while the Alliance had almost no wait time in their queues at all. Now this was on a Thursday afternoon. Who knows how things will be over on the weekend or during the holiday break. Maybe it'll even out, maybe the difference in queue will be even worse. But if this snapshot is a measure of the truth, why does the Horde represent a greater part of the PvP population than the Alliance? I don't know the answer, but do you agree with this little bit of data? Moving on to this week's PTR, this build brought a few updates, least of which is the massively increased cost of the Vessel of Horrific Visions. It's basically the key that lets you run Horrific Visions. This item now costs 10 times as many resources. Meanwhile, from my testing so far, we're not quite getting 10 times the amount of currency needed to purchase said item. Let me get you up to speed. Horrific Visions are an 8.3 feature that are the source of many of the rewards in this patch, including the Legendary Cloak, cosmetics, achievements, and more. To run them, you need a Vessel of Horrific Visions, like I said, which costs currency that you obtain by doing world content in Uldum, and the Veil of Eternal Blossoms over in Pandaland. By the way, don't worry, I'm going to be writing guides to the Visions of N'Zoth and Horrific Visions, all the visions. Like, You're going to be saying that word a lot over the next year. Visions. You know how when you say a word too many times and it sort of loses its meaning? Visions, 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 visions.
Visions.
Very good, Bob. The general consensus among those who've been testing on the PTR agree that between farming the world quest and dailies and rares and other objectives, players can run a horrific vision 2, maybe 3 times a week with a lot of grinding. But the question is this a bit too punishing? Is it okay to have a feature that is very central for this patch to be so difficult to run multiple times? Also keep in mind that you can hoard these vessels of horrific visions, so you can farm the crap out of them, but it's not like you have to run them that week or else. You can hold on to them and then just kind of boom, 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 keep running them. Anyway, compare this whole thing to Withered Training, which was unlocked by questing and it popped up as a world quest every few days without any additional work. Or compare it to the Mage Tower, which is what these visions are meant to be a callback to. Running those required a really trivial amount of resources, although the Mage Tower was only up on certain days. Compare this again to the Deaths of Chromie scenario that you can hop into pretty freely, but that was paced by talent unlocks that required, I think, days to activate once you purchased, like they had a cooldown of sorts. Unlike what I just mentioned though, Horrific Visions are not just a side game for optional rewards. Blizzard designed Horrific Visions as part of this whole loop of content and rewards and other goodies. It's central to 8.3 progression. A fully powered legendary cape might not be absolutely required to complete the upcoming raid, but it does play a part. It definitely plays a part when handling corrupted gear, which is an entire section on its own that I've already almost beat to death already. Like, imagine if the Mage Tower dropped not just a badass weapon transmog, but a powerful item, but you can only run it like twice a week. There's still plenty of time to make adjustments before 8.3 goes live, but as of right now, if you were to run a horrific vision and some freak accident happens, like you disconnect or your computer crashes, all the work that you put into farming your way just to get into that vision, it's gone. There goes your cloak upgrade for the week, and maybe here comes that self-induced pressure of falling behind. No one wants that, I think. So before we get out those pitchforks...
Oh, I already have mine out.
But here's my suggestion for Blizzard. Make the first run per week not require this vessel, this key. Similar to how the first run of the Mage Tower each time the building was up didn't cost you anything. It's still going to encourage plenty of world content farming so we can get some sweet, sweet rewards like the gem socket upgrade or this snazzy backpack over here, which actually it's actually pretty small.
Maybe if you get an authenticator, it'll get bigger.
Anyway, why am I talking about this specific subject at length? I'm talking about this now because in Shadowlands, we're going to a magical land called Torghast. Okay, actually, it's an endless dungeon. That's basically a horrific vision, but instead of it being a patch feature, it's a big part of the entire expansion. And unlike Island Expeditions, there's supposed to be a lot of non-cosmetic, powerful, and just cool stuff to work towards in Torghast, but if the pacing of how you run this area, how you get in, if it's too punitive, there's gonna be a lot for Blizzard to answer for. So maybe in the first few weeks after the new year, I'm going to be talking about Torghast and give some early feedback on its premise. And it'll be based on the lessons Blizzard's learned from this sort of repeatable content, which include Withered Training, Deaths of Chromie, the Mage Tower, and Horrific Visions. Moving on, 8.3 celebrates the joy of killing once again. Like in previous expansions, a sort of event is going to be available that allows you to betray your own faction, this time as an agent of N'Zoth. All you have to do is to switch to war mode and become an assassin. Easy. Just to kill a bunch of players from the opposite faction. Afterwards, you're going to get a quest by the man himself, N'Zoth, to kill a bunch more players from your own faction. You're going to get a cool little item, you use it, and then ta-da, and go to town. The reward is going to be a toy with a 1-hour cooldown that lets you change into a servant of N'Zoth, which has a cool effect and a title to boot. So here's my grand idea. It's a terrible idea, actually, but it's a grand idea. So according to these tooltips, you can switch your faction in Kultiris, in Zandalar, or in a Vision of N'Zoth, which is a void-corrupted version of Uldum, or the Vale of Eternal Blossoms that you can visit once a day to farm for the currency that you need to run horrific visions. Like I said, I'm going to have guides for this stuff, so sorry if I'm confusing people. Anyway, if you want to ruin people's day, These visions are where you, the evil player, want to be lying in wait for some hapless fool who accidentally kept war mode on. At first, because of your cloak, you can only stay in these visions for a few minutes before your sanity runs out and then you're forced to leave, and you can only visit these once a day. But at high cloak levels, you can pretty much stay there as long as you want, as long as you're constantly killing stuff. So if you want to be like the total asshole ruining your own faction, that's the place to be. Go ahead.
Already here and waiting.
Alright, let's sprint to the end with some smaller news bits. Blizzard is continuing to release official previews for patch 8.3 featuring the Worgen and Goblin Heritage Armor sets. Also, a change to the way tank threat works in BFA changes pretty much nothing for us. I don't even know why they said anything. And with this PTR update, Death Knight eyes were updated once again for a sexier look that is much closer to the iconic Lich King glow, with the power of undeath leaking from his eyes.
Yay, you've achieved resting Lich face.
that's a good one.
I know, I'm a maestro.
That's going to wrap it up for the news, so let's get to some of your questions. As always, or at least until I run out of them, I'm going to be selecting random questions that I get asked around here, the internet somewhere, and I'm going to share them here. I'm not going to read the entire question, but I'll leave them up for you to read here on screen. Bill McVeigh asks, will we ever get to meet Lady Soul? That's a decent question, Bill.
You've already met the Lady Soul. Purr.
Shut up, dude. Anyway, that's for her to decide. I mean, she's already my #1 fan, my top patron, and allegedly, she bought half the views on this channel. Allegedly. We only talked about this a few times, actually. I remember having a discussion with her where maybe she can talk about doing the Garrison Shuffle, since she does a lot of work on that front. Unfortunately, that sort of fell off, but who knows what tomorrow might bring. Dragon Girl asks if or when I will ever get another dog, a buddy, a puppy pal. So this month marks 2 years since I had to say goodbye to my bestest bud, and it still hurts. I can't even watch a trailer with a dog without losing my shit. All I can say really is that I know that right now I'm not ready, either emotionally nor financially. It's just something that I'm going to keep working towards, but there's still a lot for me to do. Matthew Olson asks if Yrel and the Lightbound will be a thing in the future, now that we know what we know from the Mag'har recruitment scenario. My answer is both a yes and a maybe, because well, Blizzard managed to put their foot in the door now. We have the Mag'har as a Horde allied race, but so far they haven't really contributed a lot of dialogue or context to the story. Right now they're a race that's been given, they try to make themselves present, but they've sort of been forgotten. And we also have tons of questions about Yrel and her Lightbound. But Blizzard, being totally evil and bad-natured, well, they don't have to address this anytime soon. It's an idea that can be saved for another time. So I imagine that they'll come into play as soon as Alleria and Terralion come into play too, with direct confrontations between the Void and the Light. So those characters, including Anduin, Velen, even Kalia Menethil and Sara, like that I think can and should be an expansion onto itself, where we as champions of Azeroth possibly try to wrangle this war between the Void and the Light. Omar Sameh, whose name I'm kind of mispronouncing, I'm sure, asks where I'm from and pretty much what my heritage is. So I'm Filipino born and raised in the US, here over in Northern California, you know, the land of liberals, where we have a panko made from avocado toast, pink snow, and vegan eggs. One of those facts is actually true. And Vandercat the First asks, what are my top 3 classes and specs that I love to play, and how long have I been playing them? Wait a minute. There are that many classes in WoW? Anyway, my main is a Protection Paladin, and I've been doing that for 10 years. Stop that. Everything else is a distant second, and I can't speak to them with any sort of expertise at all, but I do have standouts. There are alts that I kind of try to play. The DPS specs that I guess I prefer include a Beastmaster Hunter, a Frost Mage, and a Demo Warlock. Warlocks were my first class in the World of Warcraft, and overall I just like pet classes. And Frost Mages are awesome because I like the idea of, you know, with the icicles, especially when the patch came in for that, the icicles flying towards the enemy. I thought that was really cool. I like healing on a Disc Priest the most, but it's still pretty challenging for me to really get into that mindset. And I suck at everything melee forever. That about wraps up that segment, and that was pretty fun. I know not everyone can make it to like the Twitch streams or interacts with me on Twitter and such, but I do very much enjoy interacting with you all. So don't be shy if you've got a question to ask or a comment or whatever about me, the channel, WoW, gaming in general, and etc. of course. So it's about time for me to head out, but the next 2 weeks are going to be like super busy. I might have a list of stuff below of whatever the heck I'm working on, and it's going to be a hopeless clusterfuck, me trying to get it all done, but the fun is in trying, right? So thank you for joining me today, and show some support for me and the channel. Like the video if you enjoyed yourself, consider becoming a fellow patron, and subscribe for more of this and all things Warcraft. We'll see you next time. Until then, stay safe, stay happy, and stay breezy.